Neve and Jenna.
Dancing freestyle with his partner Jenna, it's Neve Schulman.
Oh dang, there's a rain. Oh, they're getting wet? They're getting wet. Yes! Let's go, Neve, get wet. Jenna looks amazing. Oh, they're fully wet. Oh, what a great shot.
Well, thank you for watching, and if you liked that...
Oof. Wow. Okay. Yeah. I think that... I'm not getting the what... I honestly don't know, but what I do know is that the first part, I felt like maybe the first part was a little too long. You know, the whole thing started happening for me really at like the 50-second mark when he took his, when Neve took it, yeah, actually literally 50 seconds, when Neve took his jacket off. When he took his jacket off, he went into like, okay, now we're going, right? And honestly, I don't know, maybe if there was a minute almost of kind of like this sort of da-da-dum-pa-da, and it was like, well, maybe it could have picked up earlier. Also, I have to say, well, now I'm just sort of picking and looking for things. This me personally. Okay, I'm not a fan of these transitions. I'm not a fan of a dance breaking into a non-dance to then turn into a dance. It's just my thing. The platform they had to get onto, it just feels like they just had to run up on, right? And for me, sometimes these moments kind of take away. You know, they right before that they had that sort of like miscued jump, right? I'm just picking on stuff now. You know, he takes his jacket off. This goes into all of that great stuff. His kick is great. Run this, and then it just kind of like they misjumped and then ran up, and it wasn't really dancing. Now the rain. I honestly almost felt like, wait, did they get wet? I saw them get wet, like I'm watching them get wet. Maybe could they have gotten wet a little more? I don't know. Anyway, I feel like the narrative is that this was not Neve's best dance of the season. And I think that is a correct narrative. I think that just like Justina had this element in her performance, of singing, it took away from maybe a little bit of I don't know. I feel like this water situation is something that you kind of probably thinking about. You know, you probably are, you know, focused on. You know, let's just make sure it's a different surface. I worked on Le Rev, the water show at the Wynn Hotel that just shut down, but it was like, you know, 2008 or even maybe earlier when I had an incredible opportunity to put dancing into what before that was predominantly all cirque, just cirque, and that's it. And so the generalists were ex-gymnasts. There was specialists, are swimmers, high divers, underwater dancers, synchronized swimmers. And so there was no dance department, really. There was no dancing. And so with me, I brought in dancing. And I brought in specific to me dance, tango, paso, and all that. And it then turned into, had a life of its own. They became almost the focal point of the show. It was incredible to see that growth of dance in a medium that's difficult. So I know dancing on it's rubber with just holes, right? So you're looking at like a kind of like a foot by foot, like a, you know, I don't know these measurements, but like a square, a rubber square that's about this thick, and it has a lot of holes in it, right? So when this fake rain drops, it just kind of goes straight down instead of splashing up and going everywhere. And the problem with dancing on that surface is that you can obviously, you know, slide a little bit, so the footing is a little different. You know, it seems that the elements may have gotten in the way. But again, this is the Neve's best dance was their previous performance. To me, it a little bit overshadowed this freestyle. By the way, that can happen too. His first performance was bomb, and he delivered. Neve delivered this Paso Doble. He made it look better than the original, and the original was the bomb. So this kind of felt like me. He was a little more nervous about this because it was fresh and on his mind, and it was just, you know, it felt kind of like this. Whereas his Paso, his Swan Lake performance was just like woof. And maybe that played a role in people's opinion, because that's what's in discussion right now. It's people's opinion, because the judges gave everybody 10s and said, guys, you go ahead, you decide. And this viewer who's not a dancer is looking and going at these dancers going at it, right? But he's seeing one dancer, Caitlin, who had the whole season of sort of underwhelming performances, including today's earlier performance that just blasted with 11s. And so the last thing I saw of Caitlin is a massive jump and a very sort of like bam performance with that element of the breathing at the end. Like, are you happy now? Look at me, I'm out of breath, Max. I love it. I will take it personally. I don't know who she did it. I don't know the story behind that moment and that element. I will take it like I did it. I put it out, I said it, she listened, and look at that. So thank you, Caitlin. With Neve and Jenna looked amazing. I think this is the best Jenna looks. I don't know what it's about. Maybe it's because they're getting wet and it's a little more natural look. I'm a fan of I don't know. I'm not saying that girls wear too much makeup. I'm not that guy. I'm not that guy at all. But Jenna looks great. This is the best Jenna look. I don't think this is the best Neve look. And that's, I think, for this competition, for what the expectation was. The expectation was not for them to fly up in the air. It was for them to, it was for Neve to dance from beginning to the end. I think that's what the expectation was. So yeah, the elements are dope, but I don't know. I don't know who I would have given it to if it was my decision. I would have been, and this is, again, I don't care what anybody thinks, but this has nothing to do with Jenna and this relationship. I would have given it to Neve and Jenna as the couple who brought it the most amount of times. Let's just call it that, right? So because Neve came into this and he just went at it. And there were things that stood in the way, his own personality things, not personality, but his own, you know, by the way, everybody, you know, oh, he came in with the most dance experience, professional and everything else. That was also his handicap. I mean, that's the reality. He came in with like, I know this. And a lot of times it's not really to a benefit. Yes, of course, yes, choreography, retention of choreography, just an overall learning process and training process. Like this person knows what it is, how to do it, how to get the result done. He knows the body, he has the coordination to dance. He's a trained, you know, not a professional, but he's trained dancer. This isn't his thing though, you know, and it's so not his thing that it almost handicapped him that there's another thing that is so his thing, that this is a little kind of strange and difficult. And I think that he had to overcome that. So he did have a journey, he did have an improvement. He showed the arc of that. His paso doble today, that dance that I saw was a better paso doble. And then on top of that, all that hoopla and you know, stuff with Swan Lake and this being Dancing with the Stars stage, that was great. But, you know, but this freestyle didn't deliver that feeling, you know. Jenna looked great though. I'm looking at this image and she just looks great. I'm so happy she looks great. But Neve should have done better. In my opinion, it's not kind of his fault, but it's also his fault. You can deliver better. There's no, it's not a good analogy. I had a different train of thought, but it wouldn't work in this case. But I thought that he needed to show his dance skill to the 11th. This did not involve dance skill. This involved stage design. And I don't think that was the expectation of that couple. I expected dance from beginning to the end. And overwhelmingly better dance than Caitlin would have even done. And it kind of ended up being this way. And people voted. And you know what happens when people vote? Somebody wins. The problem is that a lot of times it's not somebody you thought would win, or you wanted to win, or you voted for yourself. But that's what happens when you kind of leave it up to chance and so somebody else's decision, and that somebody else's, for the most part, is not a trained professional either. They're not even a trained professional judge. That's why you have these people sitting there, right? But I'm going to bring up one thing though, because I feel like I have to, and it's also something that I want to do, and it's my show, and it's literally kind of like stuff coming full circle. But I've never commented on anything outside of Tyra Banks, outside of Tyra's, that moment that they had where, you know, she kind of didn't really know what was happening, and somebody, you know, Val and it was like a wrong elimination, whatever, that week. We all remember that. Outside of that, I never commented on anything. I would like to comment on something that I heard that Carrie Ann said, where she said that Caitlin's Argentine Tango, I believe, was the top 3 best dances of all time that she's seen. It was not. It was probably not even top 3 best dances of the season. And the reason why I'm saying is not to call out Carrie Ann, I couldn't care less. It's about the fact that you are drawing with you a crowd of undecided. You are throwing this sort of like massive log into this, maybe this fire will take off and maybe this fire will take off, with these these two were actually really at this point sort of kind of head to head, right? But when you start throwing things around like top 3 best dances of all time, what? This was not even top 3 best tangos of all time. Again, great analogy, but Derek could have turned around and be like, hold on, it's not even the best 3 dances that I ever did, you know, and he probably occupies first top 7 himself, you know. I'm a little offended too, if you don't mind me saying myself, because I myself think that myself had some better dances, myself. You know, so no, Carrie Ann, season 29, boo, what you doing? You gotta find other things to say. There are better, fundamentally more responsible as a Dancing with the Stars judge on TV. I will get, that's my show, I get to call you out, but there's more fundamentally responsible ways of complimenting. We don't have to say that every season, this is the best cha-cha I've ever seen, this is the best quick step I've ever seen, this is the best Argentine tango of all, this is the best top 3 dances of all time. What did you just say? With 29 seasons, we're talking about a couple that has won this particular one, but not like that. Freestyle, Caitlin was great. I will put it somewhere. But come on, Argentine tango? No way. No way. And it's that kind of sentence that will then take a large portion of audience that don't know where to go. And they'll be like, I'm going there. Top 3 best of all time. That's what I hear. I hear that. I hear top 3 best of all time. I'm now passing judgment because I don't know any better. Because to me, they're all great. They're amazing. This guy flew in the air and yellow in my face, and I'm not really recognizing the footwork and fundamentals. And maybe I just tuned in for the first time ever to check out this show that obviously I probably live under a rock if I never tuned in to Dance with the Stars, but that's just me saying against myself. So my point is that in the finales of Dancing with the Stars, judges took the position of becoming just referees, right? They stepped back and they said, and I think that happened naturally in the beginning, because I don't think that outside of, and this is, please, me, all honesty, but outside of Len at that time, looking at what they were looking at, I don't think Carrie Ann knew what she was seeing. You know, she was learning about ballroom as Britt was learning about ballroom on the job this season as a first-time pro. And, you know, to me, that wasn't what the show was about. To me, the show needed people to explain to other people what they were watching. Now, I'm not saying that there should have been 3 ballroom judges, but I'm saying that there were things were picked on and focused attention on that were just not correct. No, that's a wrong thing to say to a crowd of people about Paso Doble, just because you actually seemingly don't really know it yourself, right? So there were these kind of moments. But by now, season 29, it's already clear that there are certain things that are just being said for the sake of being said. So again, not to dwell on it too long, but there are better ways to compliment than sway the crowd of undecided people who could have made their decisions simply based on, you know what, Neve was better the entire season. Just straight up better the entire season. And I think I'm going to continue with that. I'm confused now because Caitlin just pulled off an amazing freestyle. And Neve's freestyle was not amazing. It was great because there were ropes, but I could see them. And it takes away the element of like, wow. It's not really a wow. It's kind of they're putting the hand into the thing. That's not a wow. That's just putting the hand into the thing. You know, so like these moments kind of took the attention off the dance and people got confused. Caitlin had an incredible showcase of dance ability and people got confused. And now you're unconfusing half of them by saying that Caitlin's first performance was top 3 best dances of all time. It's not even better than Jenna's and Neve's current dance. Literally, that they followed up with a better performance. So what does that mean? That Neve's and Jenna's Paso Doble is at top 2? At the very least. You know? You can argue that, maybe. You can argue it's the best dance of all time. But you can also argue that there have been plenty of performances that are worthy at the very least to look at one more time before you go and say something like that. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm trying to say. And I think that's validated. So you're going to sway people. At the very least, say that. Say that, that's my opinion. But if you're going to give both couples a 10 and then kind of walk away, you're walking away with kind of like, you know, doing one of those to one of the sprinters. There in the finale, Caitlin did catch up around the corner. She did come around, and this is a photo finish. It's a photo finish, but somebody got interfered with. That's how it feels. Oh my God, Jesus, holy. That's not what I was trying to go with this. But what a narrative. You know, that's kind of how it feels to me. Should everybody who loved and appreciated and are big fans of Neve and Jenna now have some kind of animosity or any sort of like dislike towards that comment of Carrie Ann's? No. No. It is my opinion. But my opinion based on many occasions when it would come this close and it would be this tight and something would be said that would just like, come on, man. Like, okay, so then say it to both. Say something about somebody else too. That's the top 2 best performances of all time. That thing that you did with the Swans. I mean, but that wasn't said. You know, and so that's kind of like, you got to watch it. So that's my only comment. I could see why general public felt that, and I've always, that's another tool of mine in, for example, choreography, and again, not when I was choreographing, but what I've learned from where I sit right now, the experience that I have. It's kind of like why action movies work. Not only because there's action, because there's always, the final action is always the one that's like, hits the great. You know, it's the last thing you see. Movie can suck. I mean, there are plenty of action movies that suck, but the action scene at the end, pfft. And if that's the last thing you remember, because everything else was just like too much content in your face, love story, through line, content, like it's like this, right? And then the finale is big. A lot of people saw this like an action movie, and they saw kind of like this of Caitlin, and then bang, stuff in their face. And right after that, they saw Neve rising, and at the end, when Caitlin started to catch up, that's how I root for if 2 teams are playing and one of them is not my home team, I'm obligated to root for the Nets. However, we sucked incredibly since inception, since we made the worst trades of all time in the beginning. Now we get a chance to come back. But when I'm watching Nets, I have no choice but to root for Nets. When I'm watching other teams, I'm watching and I'm rooting for an underdog. It's just like I'm, you know, I this is my home team, but like this, right? If it's not my home team, I'm rooting for an underdog. And so I could see a lot of people who are not related to Jenna can be rooting for an underdog. In this case, it turned out to be Caitlin, right? So now you have, this is the new narrative. Check this out. Neve was around the corner on the straightaway leading up to the finish line. Caitlin was just starting the corner, starting that final turn, leading up to the finish line, significantly behind Neve. And with the freestyle, Caitlin catches up to Neve. They go They go almost head to head, and in the finish line, she's already blended. You know, this is the narrative that she's like, it's leading up to for the finish. Now look at them two together, and now you're looking and you see Neve seeing her, and it's just like, just trying to get there. And Caitlin is now like, she doesn't feel her legs, and her ankles are not like, even where one ankle is probably twisted and it's not working, but she's like in this mode already of catching up, and she's now gaining that momentum. And now the crowd is going, Caitlin, Caitlin, okay. For what reason? Because of this thing that just happened, this action. This action that Caitlin created with freestyle would have driven a lot of people to that decision, to making that choice and saying, you know what? The last thing I remember is Caitlin's freestyle. And I think that that's what's kind of, and Neve's elements. It's just not the same that I remember Caitlin's dance and Neve's elements. It's not the same. That's what I think could have happened. So, where am I with this? I would have given it to Neve. I would have given it to Neve, unrelated to Jenna. I would have given it to Neve because I would have given it to a consistency of performances. I would have given it not to a chance of maybe this performance is going to be amazing. But I knew going into it that I'm going to see something. And every time Neve and Jenna would dance, I wouldn't be like this. I would be like this. I'd be like, all right, let's go. Let's see what is this one going to be like, right? And so that, to me, when you have two people that are just so close, you know, so close, that to me would have been the deciding factor. I would not have judged the season on one dance, but our show has been decided in the past many times, if not most times, by the freestyle. We had a saying when I was on the show, you live and die by freestyle. I've been part of that on both sides. Everybody always references me and Meryl's season as the season. This is literally my only season when I won. It's obviously my best, greatest season that I've ever had. I could have ruined that season with a shitty freestyle. No matter what the journey we had and what we did and how it looked, and it wasn't about really. It was, yeah, we were we portrayed a couple, and we've shown steady growth of performances. Maybe Meryl going into it and coming out of it was not a better dancer for it, but we showed performance after performance after performance after like that. I felt so under pressure that season. I felt really under pressure. It was truly that kind of season with a here you got a winner type of thing, 101, right? I was under pressure. I felt from big first dance to the last, it had to have been better and better and better and better, and I don't even know why, because it was like, nah, it just has to be that, and it has to be enjoyed. And I don't know how much of it I enjoyed or how much of it I was like freaking out most of the time, but the dancing was so dope. The actual action of performance was just so great. It was so great for me, and it was so great for everyone around, you know. It was that we took people with us. I could have ruined it with the freestyle, ruined it, but we had a perfectly executed freestyle that was yet one more performance. That was a step up, that was stripped of all kinds of crap that you can hang your critical hat onto, that had no opportunity for criticism. I took away everything, everything. And there was a narrative of just stripped down one sort of like spotlight, two people moving to the music, choreographed performance from beginning to the end without running from there to here to set up for this thing to then, you know, it's, I think there's a different stage for that, and it may have worked in the past. It just doesn't work for me right now. It doesn't mean that I would not have crowned Neve as a winner of season 29. I think I would have, but I see how Caitlin's showcase, which is what this really is. Caitlin's freestyle just stood out a little bit better for the format of this show. So, hope that was good enough explanation.